behind the scenes, working on that, the Radiohead unit being low before we jump up. She said, well, maybe we would extra fee shoot it.
How was your vacation?
I don't think everyone will pass it out.
Enough said.
People.
But it's not something that stays in the memory.
Sure. Because that has can cause fuses, which wasn't working anyway.
No. Ordinance is 4, no more than 4.
Hello, how are you?
In their yard.
I got too many,
Hello. How are you today? Forget a light.
one of them might know. I'll just glue on that.
We have it with,
Got it all over me, I'm like, geez.
What? How does it feel to have $1 million house?
Why, you sold the house next to me?
No, but it's almost, the asset.
Howdy.
Yeah, I don't know, you'll let me know.
So question.
Found around long enough.
First of all, very nice article. How was that? Was that you sitting in the chair with the big hat on? I saw somebody, but I couldn't make it out.
I don't think so.
It's usually a craft those things.
Oh, it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Since it's windshield, smashed the windshield.
Probably that's the answer. I think I've asked him before. I think I've asked him before.
Okay.
That was really incredible. To have a lot of people.
Well, I would say, depending on where the cracking is, because that would indicate.
Oh, you can't see.
So that would make it did operate. Don't learn it.
Maybe somebody will check northeast
No, you're not.
It's been there for a while.
No, you're not.
I'll say everything I've been there.
I thought it was great. Yeah, that 2 hours worth of rain in 7 days. I was just lucky as heck. I've now been to Seattle for a week and it rained. You see, that's like a good old. I'll probably go somewhere. I'll go Phoenix someday. It's get hot.
Or disgruntled ex.
Hey, John.
Just as likely.
Thank you, Patty, for 2 minutes after we're done. Does it really like this anymore? Tucci.
Oh.
Take first one.
Maybe he wants a better lunch.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah, he's doing his own stuff. You ready?
I am, yes.
Okay, it's 12 o'clock. I'll call the meeting of the Fire and Police Committee to order. Roll call, please.
Bill Jenks,
Here.
Fred Noble will be late, Ron Senko,
Here.
Fred Levering,
Here.
and Steve Brunner.
Here. Okay. Do we have any public comments today?
Yes, Greg Kotoyarski. I'm recording it on behalf of the jail.
Okay, please state your address.
41 Carson Road, I believe you know by heart, everybody. The agenda includes the new ordinance to be discussed here, whether to make it or not, for the ATV illegal use in the borough, how to prosecute it. And I see here that you propose to hire the borough solicitor, Mr. Hartman, for this. We already saw that Mr. Hartman doesn't have enough knowledge of Title 75. He demonstrated it, issuing, preparing and falsely advertising ordinances 1403, 1408 and 1441, which resulted to overturn previously created by him ordinances, which were all done in spite of the word of the law in Title 75. So I'm just asking you to hire another person, because Mr. Hartman doesn't have enough knowledge.
And you're saying this factually, that you have evidence to this effect?
Yes, I emailed you enough things about it, and also I emailed it to a state representative and another person of the Congress office.
And did you get a response from the state?
Yes, I received it too.
And what did they say?
They said that you have to think about it, and because of this letter you issued ordinance 1441 overturning previously issued ordinances. So you know about it.
Okay, your
Thank you very
comments are
much.
noted.
Mhm.
Are there any other public comments? Seeing none, we'll move on. Tony's not here.
It's my turn.
It is your turn.
All right, my turn.
Western Berg, or Westside Emergency Management.
Don't get me mixed up with it. Okay, I have, just a couple of items here, of note. We had, administered, 2 code red messages recently for the 2 parades that we had here locally. One was the Armed Forces Day Parade and, the Wyomissing Memorial Day Parade. Those went out, hopefully with success. And both events were apparently nicely done. We do note, as everyone has, with deep regret, the unexpected passing of Captain Derek Nestor of the Wyomissing Fire Department. Including that, we've had our recent training at the county, which was post-disaster recovery and mitigation, some of which involved, again, our being in the hazard mitigation plan, which we're all ready to go. They still have 2 or 3 communities in the county that have not signed on yet, so everyone has to wait till those 2 or 3 do. They didn't announce which ones they were, but I'm really surprised. It should have been done like months ago, but why the delay, I don't know, and I don't even know if they know. They're still after them about getting on board with this. We do have a scheduled meeting with the police and fire chiefs, not next week, June 19th, up at the EOC, which was brought up at one of our meetings, and the purpose of which will be to explain a little more about emergency management things for those people, and I guess bring them up to date and see if they have any other questions for me or the emergency management. Which, of course, we'll just have to wait and see, but I got responses from all but 2 or 3 of the people that are involved there, so I'll give you more of an update after we have that meeting. And I don't know, does anyone have any questions about anything recently? Things have been nice and quiet. We do have scheduled, I don't have it on this paper, I'll report afterwards, we have the tabletop exercise coming up on the 24th, which the county is sponsoring, but it will be held up at our Emergency Operations Center for a railroad incident, and we'll see where that goes and what that brings, but we'll have to wait and see, I guess, but that'll be a review. I know that's always on everybody's plate, what's going on with the railroad stuff, so things are at least being looked at there. Okay, any questions anyone has? Okay, that's it, Bill.
Thank you.
You bet.
Okay. Moving on to fire department. Ethan.
Good afternoon, everyone. For the month of May, you see the report up there on the screen, there were 142 total calls for the month. We gave aid 64 times. Year to date, we've run 719 total incidents. For the QRS for the month of May, there were 33 responses with 9 patient contacts and 159 year to date. So far, we've had 0 Narcan uses. The average turnout time was 1 minute and 45 seconds with 4.8 personnel responding. The breakdown on the bottom side of the screen there is for the responses year to date, 23 versus 24. You can see we're down 62 responses. Most of that was in the 39-2 box with the changes going on out on the inner Reading property. Fire losses holding steady at $1,750 for the year. And this month, my staff participated in getting all the apparatus into the Memorial Day parade, which was great to see. Look forward to doing that again in July for the 4th of July parade. We've completed 289 inspections, and total training hours year to date were 592 hours. Does anybody have any questions on the May monthly statistics?
I noticed the year to date was all dry, and which is great.
Yeah.
Am I to assume Park Road North may have something to do with that?
Not only there, throughout the borough with doing the inspections and keeping the commercial properties up to par with the fire alarm systems is helping to bring that down.
Fantastic. Keep up fire prevention. Anybody else have anything?
Okay. Moving forward, we did the technician promotional process. We held the written test last week. The interviews were today. We're looking to meet with civil service on June 7th to certify the list and make a recommendation to promote up to 2 to the current vacancies for technicians. Overall, there was 1 person that applied, so I still have 1 vacant position. With the entry-level testing process, we had 36 to 40 applicants that applied for it. Over that, evaluating those, we had 7 that met the requirements and were moved on to the written exam on June 1st. 6 out of the 7 showed up and took the test, with 6 people passing, and their interviews are scheduled for June 6th at the firehouse. We also are going to be bringing that to civil service on the 7th, along with the civil service recommendation to potentially bring on up to 3 firefighters. I'm respectfully asking to make a motion to table, approve, or deny purchasing protective equipment for those 3 firefighters at a total cost of $15,258.90, as well as uniforms for those 3 firefighters at a total cost of $2,461.68.
Okay, we're gonna have to make these separate motions, so the first one we'll
These
do.
budgeted items.
Yeah.
They would technically be unbudgeted items. Just so everybody's in the same thought process here, we had been up to 11 career staff. With the untimely passing of Captain Nestor and having to move some people around, we're back down to 9 people.
I'm not arguing we need more people, I'm just trying to see
Yep.
if this, just
Understood.
the money part of it.
Understood. So that would cover the pay to fit out the 3 that would bring us up to a total of 12 staff.
Could we get them to join as volunteers? You know where I'm coming from.
I understand where you're coming from. I don't know the legalities of that.
If they be volunteers, then the Relief Association could pay for their protective gear. But they have to be on the rolls as a volunteer.
I don't think we could legally do that since they would be on payroll.
Yeah, I think we,
They can only get paid for a month. I'll make a motion that we purchase the protective equipment for the 3 firefighters for $15,258.90 to be paid separately.
Yes.
Second.
Motion and, second, purchase the protective gear. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Also make a motion to approve purchasing 3 new firefighters' uniforms at a total cost of $2,461.68 unbudgeted.
Motion and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
The deputy fire chief's position, we had discussed at the May 21st Personnel Committee. There are some final revisions underway, and it'll be brought up again at the June 24 Personnel Committee. That is it for me.
Thank you. Anybody have anything for the chief?
Did, so you may wanna contact Civil Service Commission to make sure that they're gonna be up and running for that 7th meeting.
We
One-
know about
one-
Cory.
One of their, I don't know if their alternate
Yes.
is all that.
Yes, because we had the same issue last week,
Okay.
but thank you for that.
Thank you very much.
I have a question. You
Yes,
had,
sir.
yeah, for entry-level firefighters, you had about 40 applicants. Only 7 were deemed
Eligible.
eligible.
Yes,
And
sir.
for what kind of reasons for the uneligible?
Most of the reasoning was the CPAT, because we weren't running the candidate physical agility testing as part of this process. Most people didn't have that certificate, and about half of them had 0 experience. And right now, with the way the civil service regulations are written, we require certain qualifications to come on board.
Do you foresee that there needs to be some massaging of those requirements
I do.
in the future?
Yes.
Seems like that's not much of a, there's interest, but we're not able to move them on to the next step.
Yes. I think that's a great conversation to have, and I plan on calling another civil service meeting after this is all done to start working towards figuring out what is right for us as a department moving forward as far as requirements go.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is that all, Fred?
Yes.
You don't have anything else? Thanks, Ethan. Welcome. Thank you. Moving on to the police department, John.
Good afternoon, everyone. You see on the agenda, item 1 is a discussion regarding, it says ATVs, all-terrain vehicles, but it's more than just the ATVs. We have seen motorcycles. It's listed in the ordinance that you see in front of you right now. That's Reading's ordinance. So what I wanted to do is have a discussion on this. I've talked about this a little bit in the past, where it's not just our community, but communities throughout the country really are seeing these packs of riders going along, and they're causing chaos and not following any of the rules of the road and things like that. And it's a catch-22 really with them as to how you want to deal with them. And I say that because I think most of them, quite honestly, are looking for a chase, and chases are very dangerous for everybody. From the citizens on the road to the person that you're pursuing and the officer themselves. But what I'm trying to do is kind of get ahead of, we're going to get an issue where we're gonna have one of these vehicles that we're not gonna be able to prove ownership to. And after it's all said and done, we're not just giving it back to that person that was riding. So then what do we do with this vehicle that we have? So that's what this whole first part is about. I know Mr. Hartman has some colleagues of his that deal with this with Reading that may be able to talk about how it's handled there and some things that we need to kind of look at. And one thing in looking at Reading's ordinance that I see that already popped out to me is the city has their own impound lots. We do not. So I don't exactly know how that's going to work with the tow companies that the borough uses, because they charge their own fees for towing and then storing of vehicles, and that may be a process where if the vehicle's not, we're done with it as far as evidence-wise, and it's sitting there, we don't know who the owner is, they may be able to do abandonment process on the vehicle and seize it themselves and try to recover some of their costs by selling it. But like I said, I think it's a discussion that I think we need to have and to try to get ahead of it, because you've seen it in blotters, I'm sure, that we get these from time to time. And quite honestly, what I like to see happen is we get them, encourage them to move on, and they move on. But like I said, it's going to happen, I'd like to be upfront. When these situations does occur, that we have a process in place on how we're gonna handle it.
I had brought this up to John a few weeks ago. When I first started hearing it, you know, with all the problems in Philadelphia, that just seems constantly getting worse. But then I started thinking about the policy or the ordinance that the city of Reading did. And while I'm thinking about this, at the same time, all these groups of motor vehicles of every imaginable form were meeting at the mall parking lot, and for whatever reason. And that kind of provoked me to, talk to John and say, hey, do we need some more teeth in our ordinance so that you have something to go forward to? I know we have a policy on chasing these vehicles, but if we catch them, what do we do with them? So that's where we are today with this.
So are we looking at a draft of an ordinance, or are we looking at Reading's ordinance? We haven't drafted one.
We have not drafted anything for the Borough of Wyomissing. I asked my partner, Michelle Mayfield, to attend today's committee meeting to talk about her experience in assisting the city of Reading in the administration of their ordinance, just to give you an example of how the city of Reading is handling this issue. There's nothing that says that the borough should handle it the same way as the city, but I think it's a relevant experience to share with the committee so you can think through how you would like to approach this here in the borough of Wyomissing. So if I may, Michelle Mayfield.
Evening, afternoon, everyone. I had to check the time there for a moment. I serve as, or our firm serves as a solicitor to the City of Reading Code License and Appeals Board. They hear various matters, but one of their tasks assigned is the ATV. They actually have a hearing coming up in July, and we've invited the chief to join that hearing. The city has quite I think a good process. When we first had our first hearing, I want to say 2 years ago, we had over 100 motorcycles or vehicles that ended up being forfeited or destructed. I think we're down to 20. They search DCNR records, they search Carfax, they do everything they can to try to return them to the rightful owner. This is the process that I understand they utilize when the rider runs. The vehicle gets ditched and the rider runs. There's some other processes that provide for forfeiture under the vehicle code, but this is when they can't locate and cite that the operator to obtain these vehicles. They send out notices. I don't have the exact time frame spelled out in the ordinance that they give the people, anyone that they can find contact with to do so. And when the time's expired, then they conduct the hearing. The hearing is relatively short. The person who runs this for the city testifies. They sent out all the notices. There was no response received. If there was a response, and they can provide ownership. And the city is, I don't want to say lenient, but if it's out of state, they'll accept certain things for ownership. But if they can prove ownership, they will turn it over. If not, the board authorizes destruction. They hold them for 30 more days for an appeal time under local agency law, and then they do the construction. We could discuss, I haven't talked with Chris about this, but possibly an intergovernmental agreement with the city regarding the impound. That is something that the borough would want to go forward.
If ownership can be proved, somebody says, yep, that's mine, can we cite them?
I don't believe, because usually they've been stolen, so there's, they have to make a connection somehow with who was operating it, if it had been stolen or they'd authorized it. I've not been involved with the criminal aspect of those. They just tell me usually they return them.
I think the chief could speak to this, but there's a vehicle code provision about forfeiture if you apprehend the driver and you cite them under that vehicle code provision. But the city's procedure is where we have not apprehended the driver and we just have this unclaimed vehicle, and the city has a process to dispose of the vehicle.
Are they licensed? Are you, when you buy one, you have to have a license to ride it, or you just buy one and there's no ID on the fork or anything, there's no identification at all, and you're trying to find who owns it, or is there material you can go to find it?
The vehicles are supposed to be registered with the DCNR. They have a license plate through them. I personally have an ATV and that's how that gets licensed through them. And they do run that through them, but a lot of them aren't registered. And those are usually the ones that are getting destroyed.
An individual does get it registered, but then they don't have the registration with them, or?
They may or may not.
Well, these are off-road vehicles. These are
Right.
not vehicles that are intended to be operated on a public road.
You're not required to have a license.
Well, not with PennDOT. You're,
With DCNR.
It's DCNR, yes.
And that's kind of optional, because nobody does it, or is that how it works?
You're legally supposed
Yeah,
to,
right.
but a lot of people don't. And particularly the ones that they're finding are not because they've been either stolen or.
DCNR.
Conservation and natural
Resources.
resources,
natural resources.
Oh,
all of your state parks.
I was trying to think.
Does
Where
this
did
also
this-
include, like, are you talking about motorized scooters and electric bikes, or just ATVs and motorcycles and dirt bike? Where's the line? There's this everything.
So
That's
they
what I
have
wasn't
it,
sure of.
they
Yeah,
have it
that's-
spelled out in their,
It includes-
their
So they're
ordinance.
considering the scooters and the hoverboard powerboards. Okay. And they get registered with DCNR too?
I've not had any experience with those. This is usually dirt bikes and ATVs. that
Motor scooter's
we're
gonna be more like, what's considered like a moped.
Okay.
It's not,
We're not talking about the little motorized scooters.
they're not talking about those skateboards with the handles, they
Right.
call them, you know.
We're
Or
talking
the
about-
battery operated, or some of them, the older ones are motor operated.
Right.
You know, they're talking about more like the moped type thing.
So electric bikes are not considered in that either? Okay.
This is all addressed under the vehicle code, right?
Yeah, so, yes. I have something on our website that spells this out for people to look at. Can you bring that up real quick? Just to show them?
And this ordinance has been around for a while, so
Yeah.
for electric bikes and things, they haven't looked at it because those have not been an issue in the city.
And we give them to, who does Reading give them to when they have them?
Departments.
You can't find them.
We get a lot.
They impound them, and once we go through the hearing process, they physically destroy them because they don't want them out and around for somebody else to take. So they go through a pressure.
So, when you go across the arrow to the right, go till you see the motorized motorcycles, read more, you hit the fact sheet. So I have this for anybody to see, and it spells out what each of those are. This is from PennDOT. So you can see the motor scooter, that's kind of like that moped kind of deal. And each one of those tells you like if you have to be licensed, does it have to be registered, you know, all that kind of stuff. So that's what we're looking at, like those e-bikes there, they're not on there up there, but the scooter thing at the top, that's not covered, but they're like electric scooters, all that, so.
Yeah, so this fact sheet classifies the different types of vehicles, but it really, these are not the vehicles that are subject of concern.
Well, the Reading ordinance has the motor scooter, if you took notice, so that one could be part of it, if the borough decided to make it part of it.
Which one's the motor scooter? Can you scroll to?
Yes.
Oh, that's
That
the
right
motor
there.
scooter. It's a moped.
Right, that's what I was saying, it's like the it's defined in Reading's ordinance as motor scooter, so.
I think we can catch those guys.
Yeah, West Spots, they can't even get out of their own way.
We can catch those guys, right?
I'm in hot pursuit.
Look, I think this is simple. I think we make an ordinance and make it as nasty as you can with as much teeth as you can to just keep them the hell out of here. That's my opinion.
What do you want from us?
What?
Just
Well,
a-
You
I
saw a
comment
picture there.
on the chief's.
Hey, Ron?
I'm sorry. I want to comment on the chief's question about whether you wanted to use your existing tow companies and have them take possession of these vehicles. And I wanted to contrast the outcome between that process and what the city is doing. You know, if the tow company sells these vehicles, they will be back on the street in some fashion. Whereas what the city's goal is to actually reduce the number of these vehicles that are in the community, and that's why they destroy them. So I think the council or the committee needs to think about that, and I think that goes to part of the formation of this ordinance and how the procedures would work. And if you want to have destruction as the end result for these vehicles, then seeking some kind of a reasonable agreement with the city about impoundment might be a reasonable approach.
Well, I'm not sure, and I guess I will have to try to find this out. I know the tow service that the city uses, I believe they use Mathos, which is one of the ones approved by the borough. Mathos, I'm sure, is charging a fee from the time they collect the motorcycle or vehicle and take it to their lot. There's a fee for that, and I don't know how they're paying for that fee. You know, when we have crashes or things like that, insurance companies or the individuals are paying for that.
Right, I thought the city might have its own lot, but they don't.
Well,
The city keeps them over at the wastewater treatment plant.
Right, they have a lot, but the vehicle that gets the suspect vehicle to the tow truck itself, the city does not have its own towing. They contract that with a towing service, just as the borough does, and has approved.
All right, so the
Towing.
movement of the vehicle is done by a private company.
Right, so there's going to be a fee for that, so I think that that's something that more than likely, I mean, I don't know that we'll ever find an owner, so if you, I don't know, you put that in the ordinance where they have to pay that fee, but, or maybe it's a provision in case there is the owner, but there may be fees that I'm gonna be paying to that company, because we don't have an alternate source to pay for that.
Yeah, do you know how the city handles that?
I believe they try to recoup the cost if they find the owner. I'm not sure how they do it otherwise. Either I can reach out and have that communication, or I can put you directly in contact with the officers who run
Do you know
this.
who runs it? Is it their sergeant maintenance, the
Yes.
traffic? Oh,
Yes.
oh.
How valuable are these things? What do they cost? How much it cost to buy them? $100?
I think it
Depends on.
Yeah, I think it's gonna depend on their age. I see them on Marketplace ranging up to $2,500, $3,000. I think it'd be easily for an ATV.
Destroying.
Because they don't want to back out in
Well,
public.
I think there's some place like, that has like in,
Bully.
only could be one, or it could be,
There's a big tree down there they can run around.
it seems a shame that you just destroy them all. I think you put an ad in the paper and get.
Well, the goal is to keep them out of
Oh, I
it.
understand, I just,
Why is that a shame to destroy?
I'm an old guy, if you're gonna
Hey,
get
say
a
it.
$2,000 motorcycle and you can't
what they're
find the
doing
owner,
down
you
there.
just crush it and make it go away? Maybe we should start.
And I just saw that they were, Philadelphia was trying to get one of them, I guess one ran into the side of the police car and injured the police officer.
Right, like I said,
You
it's
know,
based.
these people are nuts on these things. And we've had our share here.
Do we have any experience as to what our surrounding, Reading, I get it,
that it's a little bit different circumstance than ours. What's Spring, West Reading, Coombe, Shunky, what are they, do they do anything about this?
I don't know. I'm pretty sure what they're doing is the same thing that we're doing, is encouraging them to get out of the borough, and once they're out of the borough, that's it. And, you know, I honestly, I mean, I'm not gonna be upset if that's what continues, but as I said, we're gonna get one, and then what do we do with it? Because we have nothing in place to deal with it. And then, I mean, while I'm talking to you, one of the other things I think that you may wanna discuss is, you see the city has this committee that is the one that hears these forfeitures. Would this committee be the committee that is hearing that, or would it be full council, or how would the, you know, if we're gonna do a draft ordinance, how do we want that to be in the ordinance?
There would be no prohibition to this committee doing that, or a whole council. It's a determination by council. The city does it just, it was an established board, just assigned them tasks to take on.
So what happens if you
What's
don't
that?
have an ordinance and you see
Right,
one?
which committee?
Do we have
That's
to
what I
keep,
think.
are we obligated to keep it in perpetuity?
If there's no criminal citation, I think, I never come across that. I think you would have to use all reasonable means to still try to locate the owner. And then make a determination what you would do with it. But I think you would have to at least try to give that owner due process of locating it.
No different than a car. Violation of car, you know,
Well, it's a lot easier to find a car. It's not a VIN.
Yeah, I mean, with a car, I mean, as it would happen now, if we, let's say we get a disabled vehicle unoccupied in traffic and we tow it, we're gonna try to notify the owner, we'll send letters to the registered owner, we'll look at the VIN if we have to. If we don't get anything, what will eventually happen is the tow company itself, because it's gonna be at their establishment, will process that for abandon, and then they're gonna take ownership of that car as well. And then they're gonna sell it, you know, for whatever, they're trying to sell it for somebody to use, or sell it for parts, or whatever, to recoup their towing and storage fees.
But it seems like in these things, it's not likely they're going to recoup the fees, and they might not be willing to do this, so it seems we're better off with an ordinance giving us a procedure than,
Well, what we're starting out with, the criminal element is what uses this stuff. And not Vespas, there may be 10 Vespas around here, but they're not driven by little kids that are trying to run somebody over, they're not owned. So, if we want to get into criminal business, we need to do it. But if we assume that some people actually buy them and license them, and they buy them because they like them, that's another story.
then they would be responsible.
Right, exactly. But we're starting with the premise that everybody in Reading is gonna come over here and drive us, we need to arrest them.
No, there's the premise that if we have a strong ordinance, it'll discourage
They
them
won't
from
come.
coming here.
Put a
If we
sign.
build it, they will not come.
Right, we can put a sign up first, too. Don't come here and arrest.
I think Steve Day has something already to try that. Yeah. And authorize the solicitor to get that. Put some draft together. And make it with teeth and.
yeah, I mean, and John's gonna work with them, you know, once he contacts the city, and let's go with that. So you made the motion, is there a second on this motion?
I'll second.
Fred making a second. All those in favor of proceeding with the draft process? Opposed? The ayes have it.
If anyone else would like to observe the July hearing, let me know, and I'll make sure you get, city still does meetings by Zoom, so we can get you an invite to that hearing as well.
There you go, Hank.
Yeah, I accidentally closed it, so now I'm trying to find it.
Next, I wanted to request that a resolution be approved for the destruction of records. I'm looking to continue to try to make space over there, and we have a lot of things that go back, as you can see, for a long time. So I'm looking to destroy all arrest records between 1980 and 2003. And then, yeah. That's our age bracket. And then all records with the exceptions listed for 2001, 2002, and 2003. The ones that are listed as exceptions are of a higher type priority case. So,
If you're comfortable with it, I'll make the motion to go ahead with the destruction.
I'll second.
Motion second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Mr. Berger breaks out in full sweat.
And then lastly, it came up again, the 1,000 block of Hill Avenue. We're getting some complaints about the parking on both sides of the road. And as I've shown there, that, I mean, it gets tight through there. You're not gonna be able to get, two cars go through at the same time. With the parking restrictions that have been put in place because of the 900 block of Hill, it gets crowded through there. So, I leave it to the committee and ultimately council as to what you would want to do, but I think personally, I believe we've taken away a lot already, and to take away more spaces for the businesses that are right in there, the residents that live on Reading Avenue, they're all parking over there. I don't know how much more we want to take away.
My only question, John, is there a way, because if I'm going the way this picture's taking me,
Right.
where can I go?
Well, that's just it, you're just going into that parking lot to the right.
So why don't we make it a one-way street?
That would be my suggestion, that was my suggestion, I
What
said
was it before?
before.
Well, then we didn't agree with you before, but I agree with you now.
Well, I had
No, we
mentioned
pretty
that
much tabled everything
Yes.
before,
Because there
to
was-
see how things
there's
progress.
possible development that might be coming to that lot, that's vacant up there. So,
Well, we can adjust.
but I
it.
think that, to me, I think it's the best thing. We just make it one way coming from George, so people come up George and they make the right and they come down. The people that's the Met right there on the right-hand side, they can enter to the right there, because this is Reading Avenue, left to right, and they can get into their lot that way, or they come up from George and they can get in the back up there. So they still have access to their lot at both ends.
I'll make a motion to recommend that we make that block of Hill Avenue a one-way street.
Going,
Parking on both sides.
Heading
going east,
eastbound.
heading
Yes,
east.
coming towards us as the picture shows, yes. So like I said, because George just continues, they come up and they make the right onto George.
Yeah, I'll second it.
Well, this will fix
Motion and a second to make, 100 block is that?
1,000.
1,000 block of Hill Avenue, one way heading east. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Guys have it.
We'll still hear complaints, because people now have to go in and George and come around and park there, but.
So for what it's worth, I got a phone call from the person you would probably be getting that complaint from this morning. Kind of complaining, yes, if you make that one way, we're gonna have to drive all the way around the block. And I said, well, no, you can always turn into that shared driveway. Yes, you'd have to drive around the back of your building to get to the parking garage, but it's shorter. So I told him I would follow up after this meeting.
Perfect. No, we get it, that's fine.
Do you want to bring up the second part of this? This came, Mr. Broder and myself got an email on this from Dr. John and Victoria Weaver of the apartments there. And very nicely worded, just wanted to know, this is a little dangerous. And so I had responded back saying, well, we had discussed this previously, and
It's crazy to make it a two-way street, it goes nowhere.
well, yeah, and I think that picture is a perfect example that, when we talked about this before, And pretty much we were just gonna say, let's wait and see how things develop down there and then we'll make changes, but I totally agree, there's no reason not to make it a one-way. The other aspect to that was making the intersection of Hill Avenue and Reading Avenue a four-way stop. Currently, it's a three. Personally, I think it should be. I've almost got nailed a couple of times, because the people coming out of the Met, or out of that driveway, they do not have a stop sign.
I think what we're gonna have to do though is, before you, just putting a stop sign there, a traffic study would have to be done to see the need for that. Oh, before we place traffic control devices like that. Am I
Put a little
not
sign
correct?
under- Can we put a little sign underneath them saying opposite traffic doesn't stop or whatever? I guess we can't, there's only one way that doesn't stop, right?
It's this
It's
way.
only coming out of there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Put a speed bump there.
Correctly, my,
Yeah, so who has to, who has to authorize the
We can't have a mayor's proclamation.
well, I don't, I think that one lasts for so long.
Yeah, that's our ultimate, I mean, that's only really beneficial
Make it
in a
one way.
temporary situation.
So do we need to have finance committee add an agenda item to authorize payment or paying for that tax?
Does it matter
I
if
don't
it's a
think so,
public?
let's make it one way
Let's make it
and
open.
deal with it, see how it works.
But you're still changing the overall process.
Saying,
What's that?
do the
You don't
stop
wanna
sign.
do the stop, I think we should do the
Yeah,
stop
we're changing
sign.
the traffic pattern and we're
At the same time,
dumping it onto a public road.
get them used to everything.
There's been more, like,
How many accidents have been there, John?
Well, I can tell you, I can't remember, there's not gonna be a lot, for sure. And that's gonna be part of it, how many crashes we had there over, was it a 5 or 10 year period we look at?
As we do a study, we're gonna find out there's.
Can we just
then
put
know
up
who we're dealing with.
three-way stop, you know, those, you know, we have for four-way, can we do three-way stop?
And
Then let's just put those on. If that eliminates the cost of the traffic study.
No, if we're adding a stop sign on a public street, we need a traffic study.
So Chris, this was my question. That's not a public street. This is a shared access driveway that's private property.
Yeah, no, that's, all right, I thought he was talking about the.
No,
There's a
this
spot on
is,
the other ones.
it's that shared driveway between the block at Wyomissing Square and the Met. It's a private driveway.
The other ones have already have stops.
So do we?
Okay,
do
yeah,
we put-
the other three have, so private drive coming off onto a public road, we don't need it?
We can require it as part of the land development planning process, but not as a traffic regulation.
So let me go back and actually look at the approved land development plans, because I don't understand how that was ever approved without a stop sign.
Yeah, I'm curious
The
about.
tractor trailers just coming out there.
What?
Who was that one?
put the-
Fuck, who was that? Was it like a iron factory or something like that? Steel factory? Steel factories come out, the tractor trailers come out. You know, the stop and
Stop on the street.
traffic. I think that's why it's
But the land development plan for Wyomissing Square would have, like, that would have been taken into account, and there's no longer a steel factory back there.
Yeah.
Hey, John,
Do anything.
Yes.
is there a way, if we make that one way, and there's gonna be parking on both sides, are we gonna put the parking lines there so that it's only one lane of traffic coming down?
Here.
I'm sorry, you mean take those lines away?
Yeah.
No.
Double
Are there
yellow?
parking lot, are there little parking spots that, like painted onto the road up there? I don't know.
There are not.
Oh, Ron has a good point. We might wanna make it obvious that we don't want two lanes of traffic coming down. I don't think that's ever gonna happen, but, you know, you have two cars at the same stop sign.
If you're parking on both sides of the street, people are coming down both sides, they're both gonna end up at the stop sign at the bottom, and people on the other side will be coming two directions. So you're gonna have to merge into another lane to come across
No,
the street.
I think the only problem could be is if you have two cars coming, like it is now. If you have two cars coming down, that'll be,
The yellow line.
to me, if we take the yellow line will be gone, make it a one lane street, and be done with it.
Well,
Yeah.
it's obvious that people will park on both sides of the street.
Yeah, this means if we put the parking space blocks in there, then it's obvious it's a one-lane street.
Well, it's also
It's
gonna
also-
have one-way signs posted at either
Yeah,
end
but
of
if
it.
we have, but if you leave it like it is and that take away that police car up there to the far right, and for whatever reason, a car comes out of that parking lot, turns left, and a car's coming off George and turns right, you could have two cars coming down at the same time. Correct? Is it gonna happen? I know it's more than, if we just paint lines there, it'd be pretty obvious that it's a parking spot. And then there's only enough room for one
I
lane.
guess the question is, do you wanna set a precedent by doing that, cause we don't have painted parking spaces anywhere else in the borough?
Well, the only place we do is in the 900 block, and then we have it on Fourth. Those are the only places.
Seems the simplest thing is just to remove the yellow lines.
Yeah,
you're
let's
just
do it that
gonna-
way. Start with that.
Start with that.
Progress. Glacier speed.
Then we'll just table the stop signs for right now. Then we'll see what.
Well, Michelle's gonna take a look at the ordinances.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
And then I think we could just request Metropolitan to put up a damn stop sign.
Well, if it's on either of the approved land development plans, they don't have a choice, that's a condition of approval, so.
So we'll just see what that says.
Okay, stay
Yeah, but it's already
tuned.
been approved though, right?
But that's what I'm saying, if the stop sign is on there,
Oh,
Before condition.
Now, with this future development, we could institute, you know, right?
not unless they're using that driveway as an access easement, which I don't believe they would be, but I mean, that conversation this morning with the developer behind that future project, and that future project is not happening anytime soon,
Okay, so,
like years down the road.
okay, so, then it's the parking, we got parking squared away, and, we're just gonna table the stop sign issue.
well, there's nothing.
Oh, there's nothing.
We'll talk about the stop sign. No.
Michelle's gonna look into it.
Yeah, I just think it have it on the agenda for
Okay,
you. Sorry.
okay, so we got that motion, that's been approved, great.
Yes.
That's it, nothing for executive?
I have a question about, related to this. How are things working in the 900 block? We've had some back and forth. Is everything cool with that?
I haven't heard the other complaints or anything, so I know, I met, Greg out there last week, I think. We bagged that area that we allowed parking. They're gonna be taking that down. We're gonna move it back a little bit, just say no parking here to corner, so it's gonna be from there till the crosswalk, so people don't park too close to the crosswalk down at that end. And they're gonna put a couple of lines like are in front of the houses, along the businesses there, so that cars can park, they know where they're gonna go between the apron of her, garage and that no parking sign. So we think it's gonna get about 4 spaces right there. So, I mean, everything's, seems to be moving along okay down there. Good.
Perfect.
Very good. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We are adjourned, thank you one and all.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, the cats are, yeah.
You gotta get one.
Lots.
No.